Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. It's a little toasty today, and as you can see, we've got Dave here on his Interstate Commando, and we're expecting Kara and Jim to show up on their Commandos any minute now.
Good morning. How are you?
So, hi Kara, welcome. Thank you very much for coming over today. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's so hot today as well. It's a little warm, so we've got you under the umbrella.
Well, I've got some shade, so I won't complain.
Very nice. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your bike?
I'll give you some history. 1982, I had a Mark III Norton. It was black. I mean, it looked basically identical. I kept it for about a year and sold it. Had a Harley and sold that. So the last time I had a bike was 1983. And so every few years I'd start looking at Nortons again. And I'd go, what are you thinking? You know, like, what is wrong with you? I need a Norton like a hole in the head. 2 years ago, I said, I'm gonna get another Norton. So I was looking around and this one came up in Eugene. I went and looked at it. It seemed pretty solid. It's a little hard to find first gear. Carburation was so-so, but it felt basically like it had good bones. And so I bought it. Then have been, for 2 years, been working through getting it to run well. That story is the story of how it got here today, because I felt confident enough to ride it here from Vancouver.
You've just gone through a major gearbox replacement then, haven't you, yourself? You did that yourself?
First thing I did was get rid of the Boyer Branson, because with the electric start, you hit the button and it wants to kick back because the Boyer doesn't like the voltage drop induced by the starter. So I put in a tri-spark. Solved that problem, it stopped kicking back. So that was step one. Step two, I bought a pair of Wassel Evo carburetors, which I never did get to run right. I rode it a little bit, but the gearbox was leaking, hard to find first gear. It was missing some downshifts, just, you know, stuff like that. So about a year ago, I pulled the gearbox out. Luckily, somebody had a Mark III gearbox up on eBay for 500 bucks, and it looked nice. So I bought that one and took it apart, bought the complete kit, bought the phenolic lay shaft bearing from Mick Hemmings, and overhauled it myself. And in that box, all of the gears faces were nice. The dogs were pretty sharp. I mean, it was really, I probably could have just put oil in it and put it in the bike. Yeah. But now I know it's got all good bearings. Great. And 3 or 4 months ago, it was really starting to smoke on one side, and it was using a lot of oil. So I decided, okay, let's take a look at the cylinder head. So I pull the head off. George Krause recommended Dan Baisley.
Yes.
Took the head to Baisley. He says, we'll do the whole thing. I took the barrels off. It didn't look severely wrenched on. There's not a lot of bunged up hardware. It was nice that way. Yes. And the barrels were original bore. So now they're 20 over, new pistons. Yeah. And the weird thing was, the old pistons had like a ton of slot clearance, like 7/1000ths of an inch.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah. And so the rings had beat themselves up and down. I don't know how that happens. But anyway, so new pistons, bore, put it back together. Still wasn't running right. And I always felt bad that I had skimped on the carburation. Like I would never know whether it would really run its best unless I had the premiers. So I bought a pair of premiers from Steadfast. Put them on the bike. One side ran great. This side, misfiring, cold exhaust, sooted the plug in 30 seconds. Took the carburetor apart like 3 times, measured everything, ran fluid through it, you know, blew it out with air. Can't see anything wrong with it. Nothing. I was ready to buy another carb. just to get the bike running.
Yeah.
Finally, I took an old bowl off the original beat up old A-mills that were on this thing with the old style float.
Yes.
And I built a jig to measure actual fluid levels. And that bowl measured good. Well, the one I took off measured well too. But anyway, I put that bowl on there, put it back together, and it ran great. And so, you know, it's a black art. Let me tell you, that was the story with that. And it wasn't ignition. I proved it, you know. And so, but the bowl is still on there. The old bowl is still there now, and it works just fine. So we'll just go with it.
And you built some tools as well when you were rebuilding your gearbox then, did you?
Yeah, I have a full-size CNC machine, you know, 2 tons of you better own a CNC machine if you're going to have a Norton, you know, so you can make tools and drifts and stuff. And so I made a full set of punches for doing the bearings. And the lock ring thing for the clutch actuator retainer ring, and a couple other things. The puller for the sprocket on the crank, and stuff like that. These handlebar clamps, I made them. The thing I'm proud of is the horn was not on the bike, and I wasn't willing to disassemble everything to get at where it was supposed to go, and plus you can't hear it down underneath there. So I made a bracket that's a combination footrest
That's cool.
and
I like
horn
that,
bracket.
Yes.
And so it looks fine. It's kind of part of the goofy symphony of weird metal that
No, I like it.
that the bike is. I thought it was fine.
Is
so.
that a Norton horn? It looks a lot like it.
It
as
is,
well.
yeah.
It looks, but you've taken the paint off it,
I
right?
spray painted it hammer-tone
Yeah,
gray.
yeah, it looks cool.
And it looks fine there, and it works, and it's easy to get to. And
So I've got to ask you, is your bike called Tinkerbell?
I call it Tinkerbell, yeah. Well, people don't know, there were latter-day Disney movies with Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was a mechanic and an engineer. Like some of the nature fairies and water fairies, and Tinkerbell makes stuff and little machinery.
She tinkers around.
She tinkers
That's
things
it. She's a
together.
tinkerer.
Yeah,
I like that very much.
that's where it came
But
from.
you've done more tinkering on more than just Nortons as well. I understand you've got quite a background in mechanics and engineering.
In manufacturing, yeah.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
really?
not motorcycles. This is the first time I've really seriously worked on motorcycles, but you know, I've taken Alfa Romeos apart and put them back together and stuff like that. So, you know, the basics of good mechanicking practice I've been familiar with. You know, having a CNC machine helps. Like, I use it to press bearings in. Or you got the Z-axis, right? You get your punch under there, and there's no tool in the nose, but you just get a big tool holder, and you can come down 1/1000th of an inch at a time, dead square. And it's like, the bearings just go, they don't want, yeah, perfect alignment, yeah. And and I felt bad cheating with the machine like that, but the forces actually are minimal compared to cutting. I mean, that's a pretty powerful piece of gear, and it's really not abusing it, so. And I know I've paid too much, but I know where these pieces are at, and if something goes wrong, I'm perfectly willing to dig into it.
Yes.
So I'm not sitting there on a bike going, oh, I hope nothing breaks, because
Yes.
I don't, it's the scary unknown, you know.
Do you use the starter motor or do you kick it?
Oh no, cold starting, what I do is I prime it, kick it a couple of times with no ignition, and then push it over compression so that the starter motor has some momentum, and it starts right up, like that.
Is it
Generally
2-brush?
speaking, it's 4-brush.
As well.
With the exception of fine tuning and suspension, like I don't even know what shape the shocks are in. I don't have anything to compare it to, you know. And so, I mean, it's not doing anything grossly wrong, and it goes down a road straight, and it feels good. So that's a lot of the battle. I wouldn't have learned anything if I'd bought a perfect bike.
No, that's it. I agree.
You know,
yeah.
really, yeah. See ya. So anyway, there we go. Yep.
Just in case.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
hold it for a sec. I think that should be okay. We should be alright. No. Oh, no. Go for sure.
Oh, ouch. You know what, that
They
hit,
went that way.
hit in the head.
Oh, there you go. What would be more appropriate than to stick a...
Oh my God.
Ooh, look at that beautiful print.
See, we knew Shep had life.
Just lay it. I think just lay it. Will that work? Got it? Good. I think that might hold it.
All right. Okay.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. This has been another tale from the cul-de-sac. Please remember to subscribe and click the little bell and you'll get a notice whenever I release a new video, usually every Sunday morning and sometimes during the week.